Hello. Thank you so much for joining me today for this ministry moment. I appreciate you for joining me on today, whether it be morning, afternoon, evening, whatever time it is that you choose to watch this. It's that time. Hello. Thank you for joining me. I'm Pam, and I just wanted to share something with you. I think it was on Friday. I shared with during Morning Manna that that the Lord had told me to share a piece of my story. And so that's what I'm going to do on today. Probably because there are some other individuals that are, as myself, I'm trying to be careful, word selection, like myself, that have experienced this particular thing that I'm going to share on today. The secret. It's not a secret for real because it's been told before, just not in this platform, I don't think. But I'm going to tell it again because God told me to, because evidently somebody needed to hear it. So I'm going to do that. I am the baby of 9. For those that may not know, I come from a very large family. I come from a family where most of my siblings are much older than myself. The sister that's next to me, we're 10 years apart. And so I grew up, with a large family, with probably most of my nieces and nephews. I grew up with them because of course, my siblings, I didn't get a chance to actually grow up with them. My father was a pastor, and I'm a PK. For those that didn't know it, I am. And so don't try to hold that against me, because people got stereotypes and stuff that y'all say about PKs. It's all a lie. It's a lie. However, I came from a very large family. And so this story that I'm going to share, and it's not a story, it's my testimony that I'm going to share with you on today. I share with you for the hopes that someone else may receive their breakthrough. Okay. Being obedient unto God to do it because he told me to. And so that's what I'm doing it today. So I think as far back as I can remember, maybe my first encounter may have been about 7. At the age of 7 years old, I was molested. And I wasn't molested, of course, by a stranger. I was molested by someone in the family. Now, let me say this. It wasn't any of my uncles. It wasn't any of my siblings. It wasn't my father or my brothers. It wasn't anybody that was in my immediate family, I'll say. Okay. So no, those people that are close to me now, these were not those individuals. All right. So let me just make that very clear. All right. But it wasn't a stranger. And I remember the first time that it happened. And, I remember being awakened from my sleep at 7. Because of course I grew up with my nieces and nephews, and so we always was together because my siblings were older. They had went off, and so therefore my sister that was next to me, 17 years old, so she's being a teenager doing things that teenagers do. So I spent most of my time again with my nieces and nephews. However, I remember it was a night that we, of course, were probably having a sleepover or something, but we was all together. And I remember being awakened by somebody rubbing on me. Now I'm going to share some details in my journey that I probably haven't shared with anybody. Whew. So that's why I said this one is going to be longer than 10 minutes. But I recall waking up from my sleep with someone rubbing on me. And I remember waking up fighting and swinging. And I remember hitting this individual in the face. And so when I did that, of course, it was a man. So he removed himself from the room. But what I recall doing is waking up with my heart pounding in my chest at the age of 7. And I was originally sleeping on the outside of the bunk bed because I was in the bed, of course, with others, my nieces and nephews. You know how we do it in the Black community. We all sleep together. But I remember putting myself next to one of my nieces, and I squeezed between her because she was in the inside next to the wall. And I remember moving myself and squeezing myself between her and the wall. And I remember it so vividly of how much my heart pounded and I was afraid to go back to sleep. I just didn't, want to go back to sleep. And I would just remember trying to be very careful of not being around that individual by myself, or not, as a kid, I shouldn't have to worry about that. I was 7. I was 7 years old. 7. Probably fresh in first grade. 7 years old. The baby of 9. So that means that there was plenty of adults around me. I was 7. And the innocence that I had, it was violated. And so that is the first encounter that I remember. Now, if there's other encounters that may have happened like through the years, for whatever reason, my mind has suppressed those thoughts. But the last encounter, the very last encounter that I recall, I was 14 years old. Yeah, I'm trying not to get emotional. I was 14 years old, and I remember being called from outside where everyone was out there playing kickball. We were doing something. Who knows what the hell we was. Oops, I cussed y'all. What the heck we was doing. But I remember being called, and then I remember the person saying to me, come here, close your eyes. And I'm thinking, close my eyes for what? And then that person opened their robe and took my hand, and put my hand on their genitalias. And said to me that when you turn 16, all of this is yours. Now, I was 14, and I was told that when I turned 16, all of that could be mine. I remember leaving out, thinking to myself, what the heck just happened? Now, when I went back out with the rest of them, of course, my mood had changed. It had changed because what I had just experienced. At 14, I remember my 15th birthday. And I remember as it got closer to my 16th birthday, the birthday that all girls look forward to. The birthday that is the best birthday ever. Sweet 16. Everybody was looking forward to Sweet 16, except for Pam. I did not look forward to being 16 because of what was told to me at 14, that I had no desire to have. Nothing in me wanted it. Nothing in me was curious about it. Nothing. And so turning 16 and experiencing the bliss that most girls get when they turn 16, I was robbed of that opportunity because someone chose to violate me as a young person and put themselves in a place that was not right, put me in a very uncomfortable place, put me in a place where I no longer trusted, put me in a place where I put myself to the point where it's like, no, I know it took me to become an adult to figure out through God's grace that at that time, I made up in my mind without even knowing it at 16, with not even knowing it that at 15, without knowing that I had made up in my mind. That very moment, I made up in my mind that no one was going to take anything else from me. That if you got it from me, it was going to be because I gave it to you, not because you took it. No one, I made up in my mind then that no one was going to silence me and take my voice from me, because at 7 until the age of 14, I felt like I had no voice. I was muted. I was silenced. I was violated. And it had been stolen from me. And I knew from that moment on that no one would do it to me ever again. Now, I held on to that secret until I was 22 years old. And the first person that I told was my ex-husband. He was my fiance at the time, but my ex-husband, and bless his heart, he didn't know what to do with that. And I remember the day that I told my mother. And her words to me was, that explains a lot. That explains why you would say this, or that explains why you felt this way about that person. That explains a lot. And she asked me, do you want me to tell your daddy? And I remember thinking, I didn't want my daddy to know. I didn't want my brothers to know. I really didn't want anybody else to know. Because although I had done absolutely nothing to warrant or to even invite such violation, I held on to some of that blame. And I remember telling her no. And it was probably several years later. My kids had been born before my brother and my father even found out. To this day, they still don't know. My mother knows, and one of my sisters knows the individual. That is it. But when I was 15 and turning 16, I set all these things in place that created so many hardships for me. I'm strong by nature. I'm a strong-willed person by nature. My parents groomed leaders. And so I'm strong by nature because that's just what they groomed us to be. But I picked up this thing called control, that I just don't like it when people try to take things from me or try to demand things of me, because it takes me back to that place where I didn't have a voice. And so today, I share this with you because it's time to be free. I want to invite you to embrace your healing. I want to invite you to embrace your breakthrough. I want to invite you to lay it all at the feet of God and allow Him to heal you like no one else can. Allow Him to break through the hardness of that callousness that has caused in your life. All the years that you've walked around with it, just give it to Him. I invite you today to let God heal you. If you've been violated, you're not alone.
If someone stole your innocence, you're not alone. If you are one that felt like your voice was silenced, you're not alone. But one thing is for certain, even though you may feel that way now, understand that God can, and He will, and He desires to heal you and to set you free. Because no longer should you be bound by your past hurts, by your past violations. You are not a victim. You are not a victim. You are not a victim. You are victorious, and there's nothing anybody can do to take that away from you. Victims are helpless, and you're not a victim. You are not helpless at all. In fact, you've survived all these years. You've survived all these years carrying that same hurt, carrying that same pain. You've survived all these years. The last thing you are is a victim, because you're not helpless. So I just want to invite you to be healed. I want you to receive what God has for you today, and that is your healing. I know this ministry moment was a lot longer than what it normally is, but God had the desire that somebody be free today. And that's just a peek into my little closet. That's just a peek in the window of Pam's life. I've been through so much, but I'm still here. God has brought me through a whole lot. I'm still here, and I bless His name for it. Sis, if it's you, I invite you to be healed. My brother, if it's you, because I know that it's not just women and it's not girls, but boys are violated as well. I invite you to receive your healing on today. My prayer is that you will accept the invitation, and that you will seek God's face to be your Jehovah Rapha, to be your healer, to be the God that heals, that I know that He is. That is my prayer for you on today. I pray that this blesses you. I pray that this can help you. I pray that my story will help you to see that you can still make it out. Even when you feel like that you couldn't, you can still make it out. Now, for those that may be still concerned or worried about the whole control thing, I still got it a little bit. I can be a little stubborn sometimes. But blessed be to God, I know where it comes from. And I check it when I need to. Sometimes I don't need to, so I just let it go. But sometimes I'll check it when I need to. But I praise God that I didn't take my life. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. So God bless each and every one of you. This was your ministry moment on today. I pray that it helps you. If you need to send me a message and you don't want nobody to see it, just go ahead, send it to me an instant message, and we can talk about it. We can pray about it. We can do whatever we need to do to help you get through it. So this is this ministry moment. I pray that it blesses you. Please share it with somebody else so someone else can be set free. Keep pressing, no matter how hard things may get. And I'll see you guys again soon for another ministry moment. Have a blessed day.